Aron Ra, eminent atheist scholar. Can you find me any stories like this in any other religion besides Christianity? Or is God real and God is killing people who blaspheme his name and spit in his face and refuse to get saved? Listen to this story by J. Harold Smith.
I was conducting a revival, association-wide revival sponsored by the 27 Baptist churches in that parish in Louisiana. You know, in Louisiana they do not have counties like we have in North Carolina. They have parishes. And this was a parish-wide revival. And we had come to the last night of the meeting, and I was preaching this sermon, and the meeting was being held in the rodeo arena. And as I preached, on the last tier of seats, over to my right, on the last row, top seats, were three men that I'd never seen before. And they'd laugh and make fun. Now, preacher, it has never bothered me. When a little baby starts crying, the mother gets up and walks out, that don't bother me. But under God, I cannot preach if I see two young people laughing. I cannot preach if I see anybody mocking. It just somehow or another takes it away from me. 3 times I stopped, and I said the last time, if you men don't want to hear me preach, a lot of these people have come from miles to be here tonight, and they do, would you just get up and walk out of the arena? One of them said, if you think you're man enough to come up here and put us out, you just come up here. And I prayed a prayer. Never have prayed before, never have prayed since. I said, dear Jesus, let me backslide for 15 minutes. And I promise you, Lord, if you'll let me backslide for 15 minutes, I'll go up there and beat the devil out of all 3 of them. And God said, I didn't call you to fight, I called you to preach. He said, you turn them over to me. And I did. And they continued to mock all the way through the sermon. We had over 400 people to walk down that aisle that night and give their hearts to Jesus Christ. I fully intended to never show them enough attention to address them again. But just as I was ready to pronounce the benediction, my arm came up. Preacher, did anything ever come out that you hadn't planned to say? That you couldn't help but say it? Has that ever happened to you? But how many of you preachers here have ever had something just come out that you didn't have in your notes and it just came out? Yes, every preacher, every God-called preacher has. And my arm just came out and I said, I do not know who you 3 gentlemen are. But all 3 of you stepped over God's deadline, God signed your death warrant, and God's going to kill all 3 of you. That was about 10:15 Sunday night. At 8 o'clock the next morning, I didn't know who these men were. They were 3 businessmen. One of them put the key in the door of his office on Main Street, Ringo, Louisiana, and dropped dead. At 11:30, the second man started across the street to a little restaurant to have his lunch from his office, and a lady was driving up the street and almost ran over him. She said he just walking along normal, fell flat on his face, and died right there in the street. At 5:30 that afternoon, the third man was sitting in his office, and he said to his secretary, my 2 friends are in hell, and before the sun goes down, I'll join them. And pitched out at her feet a corpse.
Aron Ra, don't you dare say this is just a second-hand story. Pastor J. Harold Smith is given dates, places, exact times, and here's a freaky part of it. One of those 3 men who were blaspheming and making fun of the service the night before, the third one to die, he didn't believe in Jesus, obviously, but the next day, he knew by intuition, he somehow knew that he was going to die and join his friends in hell. If there is no God, how do you explain this scientifically? Why is this only happening in Christianity and never Hinduism, Islam, Mormonism? So Jesus is real. And God killed these people. And that one guy knew it. He said to his secretary, he pointed out the sun. You see that sun setting? Before that sun sets, my two friends are in hell, and I will be joining them. And he died right there. Look, everything that happens has a scientific explanation. So what method of science did God use to kill these people? What scientifically happened to these men? And don't you dare take the coward's way out. Oh, these stories didn't happen. Like Jimmy Snow did and Matt Little Honey did. Let me tell you something. These stories are true. And Aron Ra, if you don't get saved, you're going to join those 3 people burning in hell. And you deserve to go there because you don't believe in God. And it's not just believing the right things that get you to heaven. You got to believe the right things and they make you live a righteous life that gets you to heaven. The early church fathers believed that Plato and Socrates were Christians because they didn't know about Jesus, but they aspired to do that which was right. And when you don't know about Jesus, that's enough. But if you hear the message of Jesus, you gotta accept Jesus, or your goodness is not gonna be good enough to get you to heaven. You be a good person. If you hear the message of Jesus and you refuse to get saved, you're gonna bust hell wide open. Because God is a jealous God. He will not let you be saved any way other than by Him.
My wife was with me in a revival. We had closed the revival meeting on that Sunday night, and we had driven about 100 miles to a little country church to begin a revival meeting on Monday night.
Here's another story. You get 2 for the price of 1.
And there were no motels within 25 miles of that little country church. And we were staying in the home of the pastor. We had preached on Monday night. We had come back to the parsonage. We had some refreshments, and we had gone to the room that had been assigned to us for our bedroom. When I heard the telephone ring, and I heard the preacher when he answered, he said, "No, I'm not going to call him to this telephone. He is so weary and so tired, I'm not going to call him. Unless it's an emergency."
Oh, that's not... Here's the other story.
God kills people. I was in the city in Oklahoma. I'll not name the town. It's called the richest small town in the world. The pastor came and asked me to hold meetings. And I got there on Sunday morning between Sunday school, you know what that is, in church. We call it 7 deacons of that church came to the pastor and said, "Now, brother pastor, we're not going to oppose anything. We just don't believe in this emotionalism. We don't believe in what you call evangelist campaigns," and said, "We'll just not get back until this preacher's gone and the meetings are over." And the pastor said, "Well, I hate to see you take that attitude, but if that's what you want to do, appreciate you coming and telling me." Well, you know, if they'd have done what they said they would, then all right. But we couldn't get a crowd for a few nights, and we was hitting it pretty hard, and those fellows were glad, and they got to bragging about how we weren't getting anywhere in the meeting. They violated the word that they wasn't going to oppose us, and the pastor came to me, and he was broken-hearted. And he said, "Brother Barnes, it's killing me. What can we do?" I said, "I don't know. Are you game? Let's get down on our knees and ask God to save them or kill them."
Wow.
And he said, "Yes, I'm game." And we got down on our knees and said, "Lord, you know what these fellows are doing. They ruin the meeting. They're making fun of the gospel and the church and the Lord Jesus Christ." And got preachers down and said they're just filling the whole town. Well, the town about 10,000 people. Everybody gets bad news pretty soon. And everybody's talking about how the meeting was no good. No 7 deacons making fun of it. And we said, "Lord, save them or kill them." And somehow or another, neither one I was supposed to tell, and I don't think I did, but somebody did. And those deacons heard about it, but they heard just half of it. And so they just cackled in their head a big time, said the preachers up there praying for God to kill us. But we weren't praying for God to kill them. We were praying for God to save them or kill them, get them out of the way. They were bucking God. They were hardening themselves against God. And I think that's dangerous. And so they just laughed and had a big time. And in 4 days' time, the pastor had 7 different funerals. And there's 7 different funerals, but the funerals of those 7 Baptist deacons, and every one of them died a horrible, sudden death. God kills people.
Talking about answered prayer. Damn. Praying God save them or kill them. Sometimes it's necessary to kill people to keep them from dragging other people to hell. That was the most loving thing to do. They would love and they prayed God either save those 7 men or kill them, so that they cannot, by their mocking God, get more people to mock God and go to hell. What would you rather do? Have one person go to hell, 7 people go to hell themselves, or 7 people take 200 or 300 people to hell with them when they die? What's the most loving thing to do? So, is God killing? What? I'm doubting God and Jesus myself. Has it ever happened where a bunch of Hindus got together and prayed for someone to die and they died? The person they were praying for died. Have Mormons ever gotten together and prayed for somebody to die, either become a Mormon or die, and the person they prayed for died because they did not become a Mormon? What's scientifically happening here? Can we actually influence the atmosphere around us by our beliefs, which in turn can influence and other people, even kill them? Is there a way to murder other people using thoughts to affect the electromagnetism of the atmosphere, to cause the person you want to kill to have the influence them in such a way that they behave recklessly and die? Is God killing these people? I wish God loved everybody. Yes, God. I want a holy God who hates sin, who but I want a God who weeps of people he has to send to hell. I personally wish God would eventually save everybody. To me, that would be an awesome God. That would be an awesome God. I don't want you to go to hell, Aron Ra. I don't. But I'd rather you and Matt Little Honey go to hell alone than to drag thousands of people to hell with you. And that's the most loving attitude to take.